Hey, good morning. What's up, everybody? John Martinez here with Midwest Revenue Group. Going to do some REI sales training today. I'm even on a minute early because this lesson and the next lesson are two of my favorites. I always enjoy them. Good morning, Jessica. Good morning, everyone. Jessica, hopefully that email helped you out last night. But yeah, I love this lesson, and I love the next one even more. Um, not to overhype it, but next week's lesson, game changer. Maybe maybe I am overhyping it, but next week's lesson will be a game changer. Once you learn some basic techniques to overcoming some resistance, reversing the momentum of your prospects, it is immensely powerful. Not just in sales, but in any realm of influence you can think of. Family members, friends. Um, there's a couple things I use all the time. One of them is the advance agreements, but the other one is go negative and going for the no and things that we'll learn next week. But what we're going to talk about today, everyone, is advanced listening and questioning. What you'll find is as we start to use that diagnostic drill and as we start to dive deeper, as we get into that type of stuff, we're going to start getting answers. We're going to start. We're going to really find out that what our prospects tell us, some of the problems they come to us or to us with initially. That stuff is usually not their real problems, and a lot of the things and questions they ask and things they say is not really what's on their mind. So what we're going to learn about is really how to cut right through all the BS and get down to what's real really, really quick. So advanced listening and questioning is what we're going over today. Guys, did we all get a chance to watch that video? Give me if you didn't, that's okay. But I want to know how many people on the call actually saw the video so I know how much time to spend on explaining the concepts and how much just to check understanding and go into the role plays and things like that. So raise a hand if you were able to watch that video just so I can see where we're at as a group on this call. So good, a bunch of you, so perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So we can spend our time on today's call kind of diving a little deeper and putting it more into your world and making it more real, okay? So awesome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate those hand raises and those comments. So got an email yesterday, I believe, or a Voxer, about the diagnostic drill, and that's what I want to touch on that because that's where we left off last week, and I want to just slide through a couple things on the diagnostic drill before going into today's training. Don't get overwhelmed and don't overthink it. It's going to be very easy. We see the questions, problem, impact, picture perfect, and we start to try to craft these perfect questions. But don't overthink the stuff, guys. What you're going to see is really, we want to uncover a problem. We just want to find out, all right, how's that impacting you? And then what would you like to see? And that's it. So don't worry about crafting these overcomplicated questions. It's as simple as, hey, giving you a call, want to get rid of my house. Hey, awesome. When you say get rid of it, what do you mean? Well, I want to sell it. Not fast, though. No, I want to sell it fast. Well, what's going on out there? Well, I got these issues and these issues and these issues. Really? Yeah. Well, how long have they been going on? Well, for a while. What have you done about that stuff so far? Well, I've tried this. Any of that work? No, none of it's work. So what's it like having to deal with that crap all day? Man, it totally sucks. What do you want to see happen? Well, I'd love to just sell this house. It's just a normal conversation. So as I wrote an email to one of you all last night, I was thinking about this. And what I want you to think of when it comes to that diagnostic drill is just having a conversation with a friend. So the email I got yesterday, I was asked, the woman Jessica said, so here's a few examples I'm struggling with. One example was we're moving back to the East Coast. We're moving to where our family lives or to where we're from, our home, right, back in the East Coast. And she said, how do I dig into that? How do I ask impact and things like that? And my response was something along the lines of, don't think of this person as a prospect. Don't think of them in this business sense. Think of them as your friend. Okay. So if your best friend came up to you and said, hey Jordan, listen, I think I'm going to move back east, back where I'm from. What would you say as their friend? You'd probably say something like, really? No kidding. What? Why? Right? Well, it's where I'm from. I've always wanted to go back there. It's where my family is. It's where I grew up. So, Jordan, how long have you been thinking about this? Well, been thinking about it for a while. Well, what made you decide to kind of, take action or try to make it happen now? Well, these things have gone on and these things have gone on, and I kind of miss home. Yeah, I totally get it. When you say you miss home, well, what do you mean? Well, I don't have anyone to talk to. My family, we used to be real close knit, get together for the holidays, do these things. How long did you say you've been away? Been away for about 10 years. Man, so, what's that like? It's not easy, right? We go into that stuff. When we get into picture perfect, well, hey, so just bring me into your world. You thought about this. You obviously know what you want. How quickly do you want to get out there? Well, what do you want that move to look like? Just paint a picture for me. What, in a perfect world, what would you like to see? Well, I'd like to get rid of this place. I don't want to worry about these things. I just want to be there. Well, where are you going to move when you're there? What's that going to be like? Do you have a house picked up? Just think of this as talking with your best friend, okay? They bring you something, they tell you something. Really, what's going on? Then you're going to just ask them a few why questions. So today's topic is going to help us go deeper with all this stuff, this advanced listening and questioning. I just used a couple of them right there in that example. This will make a lot more sense in about 15 to 20 minutes. But these advanced questioning techniques will really help open this up and get you more comfortable with the diagnostic drill, and that's why we have it right here in the program. So let's jump into it. I imagine that most of you, if not every single one of you, is going to struggle with that drill, because that is the hardest thing in our sales training to learn. It becomes super easy, but can I get a raise of hands? Who's kind of struggling with that right now? Okay, so 5, 6, 7 of you. Good. Thank you for raising a hand and throwing it out there. It's going to be tough. Okay. Just remember that when someone gives you a problem, you just want to find out. All right, that's a problem, but how's it impacting them? Right? Hey, my car is too small. All right. So what's that mean? That means I can't fit my crap in there. Well, what's that mean? It means I take a family vacation, we got to take 2 cars. Well, that's not a big deal, is it? Yeah, it's a big deal. That's impact. Well, what do you want to see happen? I need something with 8 seats. That's where we're going with this thing. Not as complicated as we make it. We just want our prospects, if they have not thought about it, sometimes they have, but if they haven't, we want it to be crystal clear in their head where they're at and where they want to be. What it feels like where they're at and what it feels like where they want to be. It's just like any TV commercials or marketing, right? Are you feeling tired, lonely, stressed, blah, blah, blah? Would you like to feel happy, carefree? That's the picture we want to paint in our prospect's mind. And the distance between those two spaces, that's their pain. And once they're really feeling that pain, there's going to be a tremendous amount of motivation and urgency to take care of it. So now we're jumping into advanced listening and questioning techniques. This is going to make all that a whole lot easier. So why do we need advanced listening and questioning techniques? Let's start with the questioning. Well, I'm going to help you out with these, but we'll get into some heavy participation in just a minute. Here's the deal. For salespeople, prospects don't always trust us, so they don't always give us the full truth once we ask one simple time. Prospects don't always know what their real problem is. What you'll find is lots of times you'll speak to a prospect and they'll tell you what their problem is. But within a few questions, you'll find out that's just a small piece of their problem, right? So they don't always know what their real problem is. You'll understand that more in a moment too. Now, as salespeople, we cannot assume to know what our prospects' real problems are. This is probably within the top within the top 5 reasons that a lot of salespeople fail or just don't hit that next level. A lot of salespeople, we see the same situations over and over again, and we just assume to know exactly where our prospects are, what they're thinking, where they're at, and when we make those assumptions, we're usually way off the mark. Sometimes we nail it, but oftentimes we're going to miss what we're really there to do. Therefore, we'll miss on the presentation and every step in between. Why else? Well, the problems your prospects bring us are not always their real problems, right? Sometimes they're embarrassed. They don't want to feel pressured. Remember all those things that a prospect feels when starting off a relationship or jumping into a new sales scenario. So the problems they bring us aren't always their real problems, right? How many of you guys, we'll get a raise of hands here. Let me ask you a question. How many of you guys have either been on the giving or receiving end when dealing with a salesperson, and maybe you go in and, I just need a little help with this, or you're talking to a prospect and they say, let's put this in your world. You have a prospect who says, conversation might start out with, just wanted to see what you give me for the house, don't really need to sell, just kind of seeing what you give. And then you develop a relationship with this person, and as you get into it, you find out they are in a bad situation, and they're really, really hurting, right? How many people has that happened to, where the problem they bring you, if I could get some good money out of it, or, I'm just thinking about selling, is not their real problem. Once you get deeper, it all comes out, and you realize that their problems are so much deeper, more severe. There's a lot more under the surface. So here's an example. Talked to a gentleman the other day. Problem's not your real problem. Wanted to sell his house, owned his house for about 20 years, a lot of equity in it. Asked why he wanted to sell. Well, I've lived here long enough. It's just kind of time to move on. It's time to downsize. After some advanced questioning, what do you mean? Tell me some more about that. Some questions we're about to go over now. It had nothing to do with the house. The real problem was, and these things happen, but son was locked up for attempted murder. Couldn't afford an attorney. The real problem had nothing to do with the house. The real problem he was trying to solve was, I need to try to get my son out of jail. Okay? Once we realized that, we were able to address that problem much quicker, much easier, and put together a much different deal than we would have if it was just someone who was trying to downsize, right? He needed an influx of cash quick. Price didn't matter. And he needed a second influx of cash about a month later. Once we uncovered what the real problems were and what we were really dealing with, we were much better equipped to handle them. Does that make sense, everybody? Perfect. So, next, the questions your prospects ask aren't often their real questions. So, for all of you that did the video, the example I use there is I worked with a nonprofit organization, and I want to tell the story if you haven't heard it, or just to reinforce it real quick. I worked with a nonprofit organization a few years back out on the East Coast. The deal was they were looking for a new PR firm. I sat on the board of a similar organization where I live. I was helping them out. Sat in on some of their meetings, and here's the deal. They were looking for a PR firm. Now, the PR firm that they had was the biggest in town. It was really well known, a lot of really big clients, and the nonprofit I was with used them for their marketing, right, to drive donations and to get the word out about what they did. But the thing was, they were not satisfied because they felt like the PR firm was just too big and they were too small of a fish, so they just didn't get the attention they wanted. They didn't get the hand-holding. They didn't feel like the PR firm, even though they were big and good, they didn't feel like they really cared about them or spent the time with them that they should have. So they started to look for a new PR firm. Okay? So as they did that, they narrowed that down to about 3 different firms. One of them was a local firm, kind of small, right? Just some local guys, but really good at what they did. And they were known for their customer service and that kind of close relationship that this nonprofit was looking for. So they narrowed it down to these 3 firms, them being one of them, and they brought them all in for the board to ask some questions. And one of the questions they asked this small firm, who was probably a perfect fit for him, was, how big are you? Now, assuming the reason why their prospect asked that question, the PR firm said, well, you know what? We're big enough to have a few Fortune 500 companies under our belt. Now, the PR firm, they assumed that the board was asking them that question to see if they had the experience or big clients, big enough so they knew what they were doing and could help them. But the real reason the prospect, the board of directors, was asking that question was to really find out, are you going to spend the time and take care of us that we want? Are you going to nurture us and hold our hands? They didn't ask that. They simply asked, how big are you? Not trying to mislead them, but they just assumed that their current PR firm was too big, and that's why they didn't take care of them. So they simply asked, how big are you? The prospect didn't answer the right question, and they said, we're big enough to handle Fortune 500 companies. And they did have one or two in their stable. But the vast majority of their customers were local organizations that they really took care of. They answered the wrong question, and because of it, they lost the business. I ended up consulting with that PR firm afterwards and helping them through those struggles, and that was one of the big lessons for us. The real question the board of directors was asking was, are you going to take care of us and spend the time we want? Now, using advanced questioning, the way the board or the PR firm should have answered is with something like, that's a really interesting question. You must be bringing that up for a reason. Well, yeah, we want to be taken care of. Here's our experience. Then that PR firm would have been very able to answer that question the right way with something like, well, we do have a couple of large customers, but we're really known for this. And most of our client base are local companies just like you. And the reason they use us is we're able to walk them through things like you want. And that's what we're known for. That's our business model. So the questions your prospect asks are not often their real questions. That's the basis for today's lesson. So does that make sense, everybody? All right, awesome. All right, so let's push forward and get into the meat of this. So Socratic questions, okay? That's what we call them. That's what we use. Socrates, as we all know, was a great educator, and the way he educated was through asking questions. The more questions you ask, the deeper you get to the truth. So what are Socratic questions, and why are they important? Well, you answer a question with a question, so you can uncover the reason why someone asked a question. Okay, nothing your prospects ask you is important. I'll say that again because I know it's going to be misheard. Whatever your prospects say, whatever they ask you, it doesn't matter. Okay, it absolutely doesn't matter. The only thing that's going to matter is why they asked you those questions. Hey, how quick can you close? Well, we close really quick. Okay, I'm not ready to go for a few months. Let's not move forward. Hey, how quick can you close? Well, we can string this out for 3 or 4 months. I need to go this week. No, thank you. I'll go with the other investor. The reason your prospects ask a question is so much more important than the questions they ask. So, next reason. This reason, whatever this intent of the question is, this is usually the pathway to the prospect's pain. This is where we could get into that diagnostic drill. Why'd you ask? Why is that a concern for you? Tell me a little bit more about what's going on. Can you give me an example? And also, the secret to being effective on a sales call is to be prepared for anything that might arise. And Socratic questions, they're gonna allow you to do so. This is why I can go into any industry across the country, go on a sales call with a salesperson in an industry I know absolutely zero about, and kill it on a sales call. Because why prospect? I don't give anyone answers. I ask why they asked. I go deeper into intent. And I take it all the way down the line to pain and simply leave it with, not saying we can yet, but if I can fix that for you, what type of commitment are you willing to make? And we go through the entire sales process. So this is also the secret to being extremely effective in any industry, but in REI especially, the secret to being effective on a sales call, no matter what your prospects say or what they ask or what situation you're in. Okay? Again, the intent behind a question or comment is more important than the actual question or comment itself. One final thought on Socratic questions: whoever's asking the questions in a sales call is in complete control. So, I want to equip you today with a few Socratic questions. My goal of today is you to know how to use them and start using them on your sales calls. You'll see that your sales calls start to take turns you did not expect. You're going to see that you uncover things you never imagined you'd cover up. And you'll find that the outcome to that is you're going to understand your prospects' concerns, their pains, much better, and you're going to be better equipped to handle them. So here's a few of the Socratic questions I absolutely love. I use them all the time. And you must be telling me that for a reason. What is it? Or, hey, you know what? That's a good question, but I'm guessing you're asking me that for a reason. Do you mind sharing that with me? I also love, when you say blank, what do you mean? I need to move fast. Hey, awesome. We help people move fast all the time. Fast means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So help me out here. When you say fast, what do you mean? Well, I'm in a lot of trouble here. I can appreciate that, and I'll do everything I can to help you out. But before we get there, when you say trouble, what is it that you really mean? Here's some more examples. As we go through these, take a note of 1, 2, or 3 of them that you guys can say and use going forward. Again, this is going to help you jump into that diagnostic drill. This helps you go from problem to impact, okay? So a lot of the questions I got is, how do we go from problem to impact? Socratic questions, okay? So more examples. Here's some tell me more questions. Hey, when you, or why are you saying blank or blank? Hey, I've got to, I got to get out of here quickly, and I got to get out of here without a lot of mess. Or hey, can you guys help me move fast? Yeah, I mean, we probably can, but help me understand. Why are you asking that? Well, I need to, or what exactly does that mean? When you hear words like fast, stress, anxiety, anything that could be interpreted in more than one way, what exactly does that mean? Or one of my favorites, you must be asking me that for a reason. Hey, so do you guys pay cash? Yeah, we can. I mean, that's one of the ways we do business, but you must be asking me that for a reason. Why is it? Hey, have you guys bought in this neighborhood before? I have to look at that, but you must be asking me that for a reason. We go deeper. When we find out why they asked, it's so much easier to answer the question the right way. More examples. Why do you think that's happening? Okay. Well, I've got so much to fix around here. It's a huge pain. I'm not being a smart aleck here, but why do you think there's so much to fix? Well, it's just, it wasn't always like that. It was one thing, then another thing. We get deeper into pain, right? That diagnostic drill. Can you give me an example? There's just a lot to fix around here. So, can you give me an example? What's going on there? Well, this and this. Or good old question, why? You'll never get past a few times. I need to sell. I appreciate that. That's why people call us. Why do you need to sell? Well, I'm having a lot of trouble with finances. Really, what's going on there? Well, I lost my job, and I'm having trouble keeping up with this and this. I'm looking, but I'm having trouble finding a new job. What do you think's making it so hard? Well, I can't do. See, we get into more and more pain. This is how we make the diagnostic drill super easy and effective. Socratic questions. More examples, question to question. When you say blank, what do you mean? Hey, let me think about it. I appreciate that. It's a lot to think about. But when you say think about it, what do you mean? Well, I got to go talk to my father-in-law. Now you know more. And again, you must be asking me that for a reason. Okay? So I blew through that pretty quick. I did so because the video explained a lot of it. But does some of this make sense? How we dig deeper into our prospects' problems, how we get them into that pain scenario, how we get them to an emotional point, how we really understand what they're thinking, and what the real issues are. Just like that PR firm, a lot of times we're going to answer their questions without really knowing why they asked those questions. And when we do that, we can sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot. So with the example I used a moment ago, right? Hey, how quickly do you guys close? What's your typical answer to that? Not what would you answer today, but what's your typical answer? Okay, under 30 days. What if someone's not moving into a house for 45 days? Did you just kill that deal without even knowing it? Yeah, so hey, we can close in as little as 2 weeks. They're thinking in the back of their head, it's going to take me 2 weeks to pack, and then I'm probably going to need 3 to 4 weeks to save enough money for a down payment somewhere. Did we just kill that deal seconds into a sales call, and we had no idea we just killed it? So what if they're keeping their guard up and tell us that it's irrelevant at this point when we ask impact Socratic questions? Great answer. That's why we're diving into overcoming resistance next week. So that's a whole nother lesson. You can get started on that video after this call. That and the video on empathy. You can ask anything you want at any time. Get your prospect to answer you. And really, no matter what you ask or say, have them never, ever, ever get them upset at you. So great question, and I can't wait to get into that lesson. As you're teaching, I'm seeing many of these deal killers come out in my past meetings and calls. So yeah, William Wilson, absolutely. That's what this is about. These trainings are going to be eye-opening. When we start to discuss all this stuff, you start to realize, oh my gosh, I know why I lost that deal. Or holy cow, I realized that when I look back at that deal, it was a situation like that. They said, how quick can you close? And I said, quick. And then I lost the deal. And when I talked to them one final time, I found out it's because they weren't ready to move for 3 months. Right? You start to connect all those pieces. This is what it's about, going deeper. Now, when we do this, don't forget about our softening statements. Right? Whenever someone has a question or a statement, we build rapport, we demonstrate active listening. Before the Socratic question, the secret formula is always softening statement, Socratic question. So here's a few softening statements you use in response to your prospect's questions. So how quick do you close? Hey, good question, that's really important, but you must be asking me that for a reason. So that's the softening statement also helps us not seem like we're being evasive and get a lot of those questions answered instead of that, hey, that's irrelevant. If we just bounce back with, hey, how quick do you close? Why do you ask? That's a little evasive, but when you toss the softening statement in first, hey, good question, it's actually a really important one. You must be asking me that for a reason. Is there a reason you're asking me that right now? Hey, are you guys registered with the Better Business Bureau? I'm really glad you asked me that question. There's got to be a reason, though. You brought it up right off the bat. What are you thinking? Well, I want to make sure. Well, I need to find out. Well, I only do business with. Hey, I read your guys' reviews, and I saw a nasty one on there. Sue Smith really doesn't like you guys. You know what? I was hoping you were going to bring that up. Thank you for bringing that up. You know what? Here's the deal. Different people bring that up, and they bring it up for different reasons. Some people want to know, what happened there. Some people just want to know if that happens all the time. Some people want to know what we did to resolve it. Some people want to know if that's an everyday occurrence. Happy to answer any of those for you, but my question is, which one is your concern? Well, really, I just want to know what you did for them specifically. Well, I just want to know, is that something that happens all the time? No, we bought 300 houses. That was our only issue. And you know what? Here's a reason why. That's very insightful. No one ever asked me that before. That's another great one. Prospect question. Hey, great question. You know, I don't really get that one that often. Why do you ask? You must be asking me that for a reason. Those are my go-tos. Here's some softening statements in response to our prospect statements. You guys are all alike, trying to steal people's houses. You know, I can appreciate you said that. I know exactly how you feel. Can I ask you a question, though? Why exactly do you feel that way? What have you heard or seen, or do you think that's what I'm here to do? Is that something you're really worried about? I can appreciate that. That's an excellent point. I appreciate your candor in sharing that with me. Good insight. You really seem to have a good handle on the situation. But you must have brought that up for a reason. What is it? Don't feel the need, because we all feel it, right? We're trained since we're in kindergarten, even before, that when a teacher, a parent, anyone asks us a question, we need to immediately respond with an answer. And as salespeople, as business owners, we feel that in us. Someone asks us a question, we may not understand why they're asking it or what they're really looking for, but instead of finding out why they're asking so we can make sure we give them the right answer, we answer what's on their mind appropriately, we address whatever fear or concern they have, we simply usually just answer. And that oftentimes doesn't get the prospect the information they were looking for. It doesn't represent the company like we were hoping it'd represent. It doesn't do a lot for anybody, right? Unless we happen to guess the reason why they were asking that question. So we're going to get into our exercises in just a second. I love these exercises. Real quick though, what's happy ears? Give me some feedback. Those of you who watch the video, what's happy ears? My whole career. No, seriously, what's happy ears? Yeah, Jake, David, perfect. You hear what you want to hear. Yeah, salesperson's optimistic, and we hear what we want to hear. So let me put happy ears into perspective for you real quick. When you're on the other end of a sales scenario and you're the prospect, I want you to think of this. I want you to really put yourself there and think hard. Do you do this? If you've got a salesperson trying to sell you a new refrigerator, and he's a super nice guy, and you hit it off, and you really like him, but you know that refrigerator at that store, it's not the one you're going to get. Do you usually tell that salesperson, man, I love you, but it's a big fat no? You don't, do you? Don't you usually want to spare his feelings? Don't you usually say something like, hey, you know, it's really good. I really like it. You start pumping them up. You start telling them good things. You know, I really like the store. I really like what you got here. I really like the way you handled this, but we just need to think about it. It's a no in your head, but we're not mean people. We don't want to let salespeople down. Or if we think that they're going to pressure us, same thing. We'll say lots of good things, inferring that a deal might happen without ever making a commitment. They're called non-committal statements. How many of us do that? Raise your hands. Now that you're really thinking about it. Hey, great deal. Sounds good. Just not need to think about it. Hey, 99% of the way there. Just need to check on a couple of things. Yeah, a couple of you are say nope. They just walk away, and that's awesome. Unfortunately, about 3/4 of you raised your hands. About 75% when I asked that question. So here's my question for you. When you're in a property, and I know a lot of you are really good with people, and they like you, and you've just spent 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half with the couple, you've talked about everything under the sun, they're not comfortable, do you think it's possible that maybe some of them tell you things that sound good that you want to hear as a way of not really making a commitment, but ending the conversation and ending that scenario without feeling bad about it. Do you guys think that might just happen? 75% of you raised your hands. Do you think maybe a few of your prospects do the same thing? And we walk out of that appointment thinking, nailed it, and then we never hear from them again? Yeah, Amy says especially since they initiated the contact, right? So yeah, so these things happen. So happy ear syndrome, whenever we hear non-committal word statements, wishy-washy words or statements used to fend off salespeople and avoid making commitments, we question them. So there's lots of tactics, the advance agreement, yes or no, and no is okay, but one more to put in your tool belt is going to be questioning non-committal statements. So let's get into our exercises, okay? What are some examples of non-committal words and phrases you guys hear out there? And I know you're all typing, I see it, so I'll give this a pause. Not quite ready yet. Let me think about it. Need to talk to fill in the blank. I'll think it over. Need to talk to fill in the blank. Let me ask my fill in the blank. I'll ask my blank when he gets back and get back with you. I'll let you know soon. Gonna get other offers. It goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Just inquiring at this time. Give me the weekend. This is where we're going to use our Socratic questions. Check this out, guys. Check this out. I'll let you know. I just need to think it over. Hey, I can appreciate that. Let me ask you this. When you say, I need to think it over, what exactly do you mean? Well, I need to figure out if the timing's right. Makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing that with me. When you say the timing's right, what is it that you're looking at? What kind of time frames? Well, it can't be before then or after then. Why is that? Do you see how we take non-committal words and statements and dig into the real concerns and objections? You cut through the BS because information is power. And the more we know of their situation and what they're thinking of, the more we can deal with it and craft the perfect solution. Slippery slope when prying, though. Absolutely. So part of this is, it's acting. We're going to talk more when we get into more of the advanced stuff next week with the overcoming resistance and the empathy and things like that, how to get away with all of this. Very, very simple, actually. So next week we'll talk about using takeaways to ask questions. We'll do all kinds of things to make our prospects extremely comfortable with this. I thought that at first too. I can't tell you. Once you learn a couple of simple techniques, you can ask anyone anything at any time. And if they start to even get the slightest bit upset or push back, next week we are talking about exactly what to do. Incredibly effective. Glad you brought that up, though, because that's a real concern. And if it's not approached the right way, Amy, that stuff happens. So here's the things to look out for. When your prospects say things like might, maybe, possibly, I think, considering, probably, looks good, all things being equal, hey, oh, money's no object, right? It's always an object. When you hear those things, this is non-committal words and phrases. We need to question them using Socratic questions. Okay? Why don't we ask as many questions as we should? The quick and easy is sometimes we just have too much product knowledge and we spend too much time sharing about what we do, what we can do, and why we're so good, instead of talking to our prospects and finding out what's important to them. Just a quick side note. Most of you are probably incredibly knowledgeable on your industry, on homes, on different situations homeowners can find themselves in, and different ways to navigate through all those challenges. But what we have found through countless studies now is the more information a salesperson has, the more knowledgeable they are, the more time they spend in a specific industry, their close rates start to dip. Because what we start to see with a lot of salespeople, veteran salespeople, is they spend all of their time sharing their knowledge, being the expert, than they do asking questions to find out exactly why they're there. This explains the phenomenon of beginner's luck. Usually I'll see fresh salespeople come into a sales team with no sales experience. They have no idea about their product, their company, or what they do yet. So they're forced to do nothing but ask questions and say things like, you know, I'll get back to you, but why do you ask? And that's where beginner's luck comes from. We can go back one slide just for a second. We are recording this, so we'll have it. And guys, if you want these slide decks, let me know, and I'll make all the slide decks available for you too. No problem at all doing that. Anything we go over, it's your information, okay? Anything you want, it's your information. And what I want you to do is, as we go through this stuff, there's going to be stuff you grab onto and you start to use immediately. And all you need is one or two of these tactics or techniques to start getting drastically different outcomes. But there's going to be others that you have questions about. Let me know and we'll go through that stuff, okay? I want to equip you with enough tools to see real results. And I know after we go through all of this stuff, if you can just grasp onto one or two of the concepts, one or two of the tools, it can lead to some drastic changes in outcomes of your sales calls. That's all. Just a couple. The more you hold on to, the better, but a couple's all you need. Don't forget about the diagnostic drill, right? Now you'll start to see where some of those Socratic questions fall into that diagnostic drill. Hey, you must have brought that up for a reason. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Hey, I'm glad you brought that up. Can you expand on that a bit? Can you walk me through it? Wow, I had no idea. You know, thank you for sharing that with me. Can I ask you a question? How often does that happen? How long has that been a problem? So what all of you said you've been struggling with this for 2 years. You know, thank you for sharing that with me. Can I ask you, what all have you done to try to fix it? So did that work? What happened? So what does that mean to you now? Is that having any impact on you? How you spend your time? How important is that? Man, I had no idea. How do you feel about all this? Listen, I don't know if I'm the right solution yet or not. We'll get there, and then you can tell me if I am or not. I don't know at this point. But let me ask you this. Is this stress, the financial difficulty, the time, the anxiety, whatever problem your prospect just told you, is that a big enough problem for you to take action? I mean, selling a house is a big deal. I guess what I'm really asking is that a big enough deal for you to actually sell your house? You bet your butt it is. That's where we're going. So does this kind of help clear up this diagnostic drill a little better? We're getting a little deeper. Every sales call, we're gonna really get it. So by the end of this thing, you guys will be pros. But does this help clarify what we're doing a little bit? Help give you a couple more questions or a couple more tools to get your prospects there. Awesome. Jill says, I thought I was a good sales guy. Now I'm really feeling like I have so much room to get better. Hey, don't beat yourself up about it. You know, this is all about communication. It's all about just having the right conversations with your prospect. I mean, at the end of the day, if we could read our prospects' minds, if we knew exactly what they were feeling and what they were struggling with, couldn't we easily craft a solution specifically for them that they felt absolutely wonderful about, even if maybe the offer wasn't the best one they got? Yeah, we could. Everything we talk about here is just getting as close as we can to the mind reading as possible, getting as close as we can to what's really going on. What are they thinking about? What kind of impact does that have on them? What are they trying to solve? How's that feel? We're trying to read their minds, but we're salespeople, so our prospects will be resistant. So we've got to use some advanced questioning and listening tactics, techniques, strategies to do a little bit of mind reading. Because when we know all the information, when we have all the knowledge, we can craft the best solution. I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Whoever has the most information about the problem is probably going to be best equipped to craft a solution. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. So, guys, let me ask you a question. What's a common question you hear from your prospects? I know you've got probably 4 or 5 that you guys hear all the time. So throw some at me. What's a common question you guys hear from your prospects? What's your offer? How much money you got? How is your company different from listing with the realtor? Why are the closing costs so much? Just curious when I got your card. Don't plan to make a great offer and would like to hear your offer. How do you determine your offer? How much will you pay for my... So guys are pouring in. Thank you. You contacted me. What's your offer? So how can you pay cash? So let's just take any of these. How can you pay cash? Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to use a couple examples just to really drive this point home. What's your profit? Oh, good one. So we'll get to as many as we can, but how can you pay cash or what's your profit? Either one of those, really. Let's use I mean, whatever you guys want to use. How can you pay cash? Why do you think a prospect would ask that question? In other words, what's the potential pain behind the question? So let's just start with the first part. Why would someone ask, how can you pay all cash? Why in the world would someone ask you that? What are all the different reasons they might be asking you that? Okay, so they want to find out if you really can pay all cash. They're concerned that you can't. There's a trust issue. They want to know if you actually can buy it. They want to know what the interest is in buying the house. They're concerned that you can't pay cash. They're skeptical. They want to know if you're rich, so if they can maybe push that offer up, right? How much wiggle room do they have? They might want to know why you would even pay cash for a house or want that house. So you guys just gave me 5, 6, or 7 different reasons a prospect might be asking, how can you pay all cash? Oh, one lady said she can't take cash because she doesn't know if it's drug money. So we just went over 5, 6, 7, 8 very different reasons why somebody would ask that one question, which seems like a very simple question, how can you pay all cash? Is there one answer that would cover every one of those questions, every one of those the intent, every reason why they ask those questions? Is there one good answer you could give that satisfies all of those reasons why someone would ask that question? Absolutely not. Right? Just got an avalanche of no's on my side. There was 5 to 8 different reasons why they'd ask that question. If we just assume we know exactly why they asked and throw out our answer, probably the same answer we give to anybody who asks any type of that same question, how much danger are we in of answering that question wrong? How much danger are we in of sabotaging our own sales call? Deal killer. Thanks, Jake. See where this advanced listening and questioning comes in. So, what do? Softening statement, Socratic question. So what softening statement and Socratic question can we use in the future for responding to this question? Hey, how can you guys pay all cash? You'll find that a lot of these start to sound the same. You only need a handful of these softening statements and Socratic questions. You don't have to be too creative and have 1,000 variations. Good question. You know, I don't get that question a lot. Why do you ask? Hey, that's a good question. Why might you be asking? You know, that's a great question. Must be a reason why you're asking it. You know, I've been asked that very few times, but why do you ask? Good question. I was kind of hoping you'd ask me that. No one ever asks me that. But you must be asking me that for a reason. What is it? Hey, very good question. Must be a reason why you ask. Guys, awesome. So those all came from you. Do you see how powerful it is when you can start to realize the intent of a question is where we need to ask to really understand where our prospects are coming from, what their concerns are, and make sure we answer the right question. Make sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. Make sure we get the prospect the information they were looking for to kill any concerns or objections they have. Again, the questions your prospects ask, they don't matter. Only the reasons why they ask them. The statements your prospects make, they don't matter. Only the reason why they made that statement. This is the basis for our lesson today on advanced listening and questioning. Whether it's happy ears, a question, or a statement, the formula for success is always the same. Softening statement, Socratic question. Armed with only those two things, a softening statement, Socratic question combo, you can have deeper conversations, understand more, uncover more than any of your competition. Guys, game changer or no? Awesome, Jake. And then you take out the drill and you go even deeper. Is it starting to come together, guys? You see how you can really start to drive these sales calls and have these types of conversations you never thought possible? Uncover completely different information than any of your competitors, because all they did is said, "Hey, why are you looking to sell?" "Oh, I need to move." "All right, I'll give you $100,000. Will you take it?" Great data, path to follow. Jay, do you have an engineering background? Because that sounds like stuff I hear from engineers all the time in the IT space. Start using this with everyone, not just prospects. Exactly. My wife says, "Hey, John, what time will you be home tonight?" "Hey, hon, not sure yet. Why do you ask?" "Need to know if I need to have dinner ready." "Well, I was planning on doing this. I don't know if I can go get this done before." If I just assume, see, in my old life, what I would assume when my wife would ask me something like, "When are you coming home?" I just assumed I was taking too long doing whatever I was doing. We had fights. We had communication issues. "Well, it takes 45 minutes for me to do this, honey. I'll be home as soon as I can." But now I understand. "Hey, honey, thanks for calling and asking. I'm not sure yet. Why do you ask?" "Well, I was about to put the kids in the bath. Didn't know if you'd want to come home and see them before I did that." Or it's communication. If price and offer is the same across the board, how is your prospect going to decide who they're most comfortable with and who they go with? Whoever understands their situation. You get to the point where you understand it so deeply and better than anybody else, and there's that connection, that emotional connection. You get so deep with them that your price, your offer can be way off, and they still go with you. Joel Frichet out of Trusted Home Buyers in Phoenix sent me a Voxer the other day and said, "You know what? Just did a deal. We offered $25,000 less." And the woman told me, "You were 25 grand off." He said, "Why in the world did you go with us?" And she said, "You understood. You got it. I didn't feel like anyone else understood." Seven minutes left. Clarifying non-committal, wishy-washy language. Whenever you hear that wishy-washy language, toss out those Socratic questions. Things like, "Hey, when you say you're going to do it, it sounds to me like you're not 100% certain. And that means, when you say blank, what is it that you really mean?" I'm not sure I really understand what you're saying. That's my fault. Does that mean it's a yes? Does that mean it's a no? Hey, it sounds like you're not so sure. I get the impression that what you're really trying to say is blank. Is that a fair statement? Clarifying wishy-washy language. So, question for you. Think of the wishy-washy statements you guys often hear. These are things like, why don't you get back to me? Let me think about it. Pick a few of those out. What can we say to clarify those statements? So first, throw some out at me. What are the most common wishy-washy statements you get? Need to take some time to think about it. Okay? Need to take some time. So let me go back to the previous screen. Or, not sure we're quite ready. Thank you, Amy. There's a whole bunch coming in. Need to get back to you. So, what's one or two of these that would absolutely help you get deeper in that conversation, help you uncover some more concerns, help you understand what's really going on? They're right in front of you. I just want you to pick some out so you can use them. And that means awesome. So I just need to think about it. Hey, appreciate that. But when you say you need to think about it, what is it that you really mean? So I'm not really that motivated. I just wanted to see if you'd offer me a number that I could not refuse. Hey, not sure I understand. Does that mean if my price is right, you're absolutely ready to move? Hey, thank you for sharing that with me. When you say a price you can't refuse, what is it you really mean? Hey, I understand. Let me ask you this. When you say a price you can't refuse, what's that mean? I put a lot into this house. Yeah, I can tell that someone has just by walking around and seeing it. It's a beautiful place. But when you say you put a lot into this house, does that mean you're not selling? Does that mean price isn't negotiable? Hey, I just wanted to get a number from you and think about it. Hey, a lot of people do. That's completely okay. When you say think about it, what is it that you really mean? See if I can find a new place. See if I can pay off the balance. See if I can pay off those credit cards. Guys, we got about 3 minutes left. Where are we at? As a group, where are we? Where are we struggling? What do we need help with? Like I said, we're only, 4 weeks into it, so a lot of this starts to gel as we go forward, and we'll answer a lot of your questions, especially about that resistance and things like that as these go on. And I know it's really frustrating because you want all the answers right now, but it's so much information, I don't want to overload you because then you won't be able to do anything with it. So great concepts, just need to implement it. What would you say to, I just want an offer? Jessica, that's a beautiful lead-in for next week. Watch the video. I'll tell you what the answer is right now, though. Hey, I appreciate that. It sounds to me like you're not ready to sell. We're going to go negative. We're going to use psychological reactants. We're going to reverse the momentum of any prospect who does that. Give you some great tools next week. So, perfect. Need to practice these to make them sound natural. That's it. Practice. The more you practice, the more natural they sound. You just start saying stuff, doing stuff, asking the right questions without even thinking about it. I think when we first started together, what I used was, first time you drive the car, it's overwhelming. Keeping track of what's going on around you, what to do when actually driving or using the car, it's overwhelming. But you get to a point where you do it naturally, automatically, and your brain doesn't even think about it. Problem we're having right now is not so much selling our company, but finding the deals. So Amy, we can get deeper into that if you want. Finding the deals is really going to mean maximizing leads. Getting deep into the why very quickly on those leads to find those deals. Or turning some deals, some buyers that are fine, getting them in touch with their pain. So find buyers who were retail or close to retail, turn into people who get rid of their house at a pretty significant discount. So the issue there is having the right conversation. So the leads that come in, you cut straight to the truth quicker and make sure you're maximizing every lead. What might you say to what's your offer? A couple of ways to answer that. What's your offer? Hey, great question. Always get that right off the bat. I'm not exactly sure yet until we take this step or that step, do a walkthrough, ask you some more questions. But can I ask you a question? What are you hoping I'll say? Did you already have a number in mind? You must be asking me that for a reason. Guys, 11 o'clock on the hour Central Time. My time's up. Happy to continue any of these conversations, answer any of these questions offline. Okay? Sherry says, I'm no longer afraid of hearing the no. I've gotten 2 contracts. Awesome, Sherry. Guys, see you again soon. Again, we can continue these conversations. Reach out to me if you want to, and we will keep rolling answering questions. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. It means a lot to me.